حي على الفلاح.
My intention today is to share with you some highlights from a very unique story in the Quran. This is towards the end of Surah Al-Kahf, something we recite every Friday. This is one of the events in the life of Musa alayhi salam. The chronology of it is not known, but it seems it's very much later on after his great missions have been accomplished. The challenge against the Pharaoh is done, the crossing of the water is done, the Israelites are they're in the desert now, etc. And it seems it's in that time frame that Allah Azza wa Jal calls him to task. He gives him a mission, essentially that he has to go learn something. The first thing I'd like to highlight is Musa alayhi salam's commitment to learning. He says, what I recited in the beginning of this khutbah, he said to his young student, you can say his intern, his fata, his young man, in other words, he took an assistant with him, and he says to him, لا أبرح حتى أبلغ مجمع البحرين أو أمضي حقبة. I'm going to continue and stay committed to this journey until I reach the place where two oceans meet. Even if it means I have to spend multiple lifetimes finding it. He's telling this to his student. And all of this, the purpose of this journey is he's going to learn from someone. So the first thing he's teaching his student is that more than anything else, he himself is a student. And he's teaching his student his own commitment as a student. It doesn't matter if it takes me multiple lifetimes to find this destination or not, because I don't know exactly where it is. I'm just heading in this direction and you're coming along with me. But don't ask me to quit, because I'm not going to. I am that committed to learning. This is Allah's way of also teaching us that the knowledge He's about to learn isn't something trivial. Of course, you know that Musa alayhi salam is the most mentioned prophet in the Quran. He's also the recipient of the largest revelation. The Torah is significantly much bigger in volume than the revelation of the Quran. And he's, by that definition, he's actually the most knowledgeable of all human beings until that time. He has more knowledge of revelation than anybody else that has been given. And yet, this man is now being told, alayhi salam, that he is going to go learn. And by the way, his followers, what are they called? They're called people of the book, meaning people of learning. The people who take his religion, and even though they've made changes to it, they're called ahbar, people of ink. In other words, this is the messenger, alayhi salam, who inspired so much learning and so much knowledge that came after him. His people became known as the people of knowledge and the people of information and the people of the book. In any case, he's going to learn something that requires an extra effort on his part. Even if it takes him lifetimes, there's something unique and valuable about these lessons that even the book of Allah at the time is not going to teach him. He has to learn this from somewhere else. Even the Torah doesn't have this answer. And Allah won't just give it to him. He won't just reveal it to him. Allah says in the Quran, وَكَلَّمَ اللَّهُ مُوسَى تَكْلِيمًا. Allah used to speak to Musa alayhi salam directly, in direct communication, and engage with him in a very rigorous communication. And yet, Allah says, no, this is not the kind of learning that even Allah will teach you directly. You're going to have to go on a journey. So it is a very unique circumstance. You don't just pass over this little bit of information. You have to appreciate what's going on here. The most knowledgeable person in the world at the time is now being told, you have to go learn a lesson from somewhere else. And so he goes on this, what seems like an endless journey. Who is this person that he's going to learn from? What are his credentials? I mean, if Musa alayhi salam is the most mentioned prophet in the Quran, is going to become a student of someone, we must really learn his name and acknowledge him. So now when we get to that, Allah Azza wa Jal, all He says is, فَوَجَدَ عَبْدًا مِنْ عِبَادِنَا. They found one of our servants. Literally, the Quran describes this teacher of Musa alayhi salam as one of our servants. I know that in our narrations and some of the opinions, we find his name to be Khadir or Khidr, it's pronounced differently. Quran deliberately does not mention his name. You would think this is a very important individual, and there's even an argument whether it's human or angel. It's not an issue in the Quran. The Quran didn't ask that question. We don't have to ask that question. The Quran gave us one bit of information about him. He was one of our slaves. What does that do? That actually teaches us something profound about those who reach the heights of knowledge. They are nothing more than a slave of Allah. Their titles, their credentials are insignificant before Allah. He's a mysterious figure that Musa alayhi salam just knows, this is the person I have to learn from. And it's really interesting also, Musa alayhi salam does not ask him his credentials and say, so I'm supposed to learn from you? I mean, where did you graduate from? What revelation do you get? Well, who are you supposed to be? Like, when you're learning from someone, you want to kind of size them up. There's nothing like it. Musa alayhi salam straight up goes to him and says, هَلْ أَتَّبِعُكَ عَلَىٰ أَن تُعَلِّمَنِي مِمَّا عُلِّمْتَ رُشْدًا. May I follow you? And he didn't say, هَلْ تُعَلِّمُنِي? Could you just teach me? I came all this way because apparently you know some things I don't know. So why don't you just tell me? I'm already tired. لَقَدْ لَقِينَا مِن سَفَرِنَا هَذَا نَصَبًا. Quran also describes Musa alayhi salam on this journey. We've been pretty exhausted. Mind you, this is the same Musa alayhi salam who's crossed the water, who's been in the desert, who's done quite a few pretty exhaustive things, who's been in Madi and almost dying of dehydration to find water. This is the same Musa that went on this journey and says, I'm pretty exhausted by now. And after this exhaustion, he doesn't just say, can we just sit down here and learn now? Because it's been a pretty tough journey for me. He says to this individual, this abd min ibadillah, he says to him, هَلْ أَتَّبِعُكَ? Can I follow you? This is interesting because what he's going to learn isn't just words. He has to follow him. This is a kind of learning that will come from experience. It's not book knowledge. It's not classroom knowledge. It's experience knowledge. And this is something Musa alayhi salam already knows. This person will teach me something that cannot come from books or words. He's going to show me certain experiences. So he's asking permission to follow him, and only by living those experiences will I learn something. And of course, his response is, you don't have the patience for it. لَن تَسْتَطِيعَ مَعِيَ صَبْرًا. I don't see you as capable of withstanding what's going to be coming. I don't see that you have the grit, the perseverance, the patience it takes to learn these lessons. And Musa alayhi salam then convinces him. And by the way, Musa alayhi salam could have also said, excuse me, I don't have patience. You know who I deal with? I dealt with Fir'aun. I debated with him. You know whose leader I am? Banu Israel. I don't have patience? You know what the kinds of things they've said to me? He doesn't say that. Clearly, Musa alayhi salam, you and I know, his patience has been tested throughout his life. Throughout his life, time and time again, his patience has been tested. And yet, these lessons, his teacher is telling him, they're not that easy. It's going to test your patience. You're going to lose it. You're not going to be able to withhold it. That's a pretty powerful statement to make. And for Quran to record it like that about Musa alayhi salam. And he says, سَتَجِدُنِي إِنْ شَاءَ اللَّهُ صَابِرًا. You'll find me patient. Inshallah, if Allah wills, I'm not saying that I have that capability, but if Allah grants me that capability, I will demonstrate patience to you. Okay, so that's his prerequisite for this learning. This is important for us because before we learn anything about these lessons, what we have to internalize is that these lessons cannot be learned if you're not patient. And these lessons will only be learned if your and my patience is tested, if we're put in difficult circumstances. These lessons are directly related to difficulty and hardship, where your patience and your grit is going to be put to the test. So this is what Musa alayhi salam is being told. And of course, Musa alayhi salam has seen difficulty before. This is not new for him. So he's pretty confident he'll be able to manage the situation. So they go on their way. And instead of me going ayah by ayah, I'll just share some highlights with you. The first stop on their journey is that they asked this teacher of his and Musa alayhi salam, they board onto a ship. حَتَّى إِذَا رَكِبَ فِي السَّفِينَةِ. Now when they board onto a ship, obviously there are people, they're travelers, and they ask these people, can we ride with you? So they've done them a favor. The circumstance is not just about a ship. You have to understand, now we have a situation where there are people who did other people a favor. The people that own the ship have done Musa alayhi salam and his teacher a favor by allowing them to ride along with them. They go on this ride, خَرَقَهَا, he starts going, you can imagine, goes to the bottom of the ship and starts ripping out the planks and damaging the ship. It's now starting to sink from inside. And Musa alayhi salam is like, أَخَرَقْتَهَا لِتُغْرِقَ أَهْلَهَا? Have you just damaged this boat so you can drown the people that are on it? What are you doing? What an unheard of thing you're doing. لَقَدْ جِئْتَ شَيْئًا إِمْرًا. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. If you enjoyed this video, please do share it with friends and family. If you want to see more videos from this series, click on the box at the top. If you want to see other videos, click on the box at the bottom. And don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Thanks.